This lesson is dedicated to you, George. Do you know that? This comes from a lesson I learned from you. So Maureen's going to help me with this. We're going to spread out our electrical cords and know that the source is always connected, of course, to one presence and one power that we come from. Let's hope we can get this to work out right. We will. I'm talking among yourselves. It'll be a moment. So there's the source. It's always connected. What this is kind of like a lifeline. This is the lifeline. This is the beginning and the middle of the end of how much time you get while you're here in your body. Everybody has a particular amount of time you get to be here. And no one has any idea when the Earth visa is going to be full, although you think you might know. You don't know. It'll be a surprise to everyone, especially to you when you're looking down and noticing, well, look, there I am. I'm done with that body. You don't know when it's going to be over, so better make good use of the timeline that we get. When we're involved with the way most people live their lives without our wonderful teachings, a series of knots get tied in us. Things happen to us. There's Alvin and Rhoda, and your physical parents who were doing the best that they could do, knowing what it is that they knew, but they passed their particular knots onto you, didn't they? A lot of what our lifetime is about is working through our parental issues and tissues, particularly if there's no conscious path to awakening. Things just seem to happen to us. And then you go to school and grade school and you win a few awards, but maybe you get a couple of hard knocks as well too. So those things become the knots that tie a knot in your being. And then you get a degree and a job and you're in college and you think you finally got it together, but for some reason you just don't feel like you're not enough, you know? And so that knot gets pulled in. And then you meet that perfect person and she seems to be wonderful and he seems to be the one you've been looking for, or he, whatever you've got. And then neither one of you know what you're doing with each other, so you just keep pulling the knots even tighter and can't figure out what's going on. And the truth is, this is the way most people live their life. They feel like they're a victim of circumstances beyond their control, that things are happening to them that they have absolutely no say in at all. And the truth is, everybody gets to work out their life the way they want to. So if you want to work things out the slow, karmic way, you can come back again and again and again and slowly untie all these knots, because they're yours, by the way, these knots. They belong to you, and everyone has to untie their own knots. And it's a way that a lot of people live their lives, tied up in knots. So for those of us who have spiritual teachings, all of the same things happen to us. By the way, this is the little trick that George showed me. You end up with things still happening to you. You still have a mother, and you still have a father, and you still have childhood issues and tissues, and you had that thing that happened, that person who got you in that headlock and wouldn't let it go, and for your whole life you've had headaches, you don't know where it came from, but you forgot about that headlock you got in when you were really young, and that degree that you got. Situations still happen. The same knots happen to you that happen to everybody else. It's just part of the storyline of what happens to us while we're here. Spiritual teachings don't erase that from us, but what you have, which is the beauty of it, is you have spiritual teachings that help you untie the knots so you can open up the flow of your connection to Spirit. God is one presence, one power. I am a beloved child of God, innocent as the day I was born. I am that I am has sent me to this moment to be the voice in the heart. I can choose my thoughts, I can choose my feelings, and my perception will change. What a great gift to know that with these teachings, all the same things are going to happen to you that happen to anyone, but voila, you have a way to untie those knots to allow the energy to flow through you. Isn't that beautiful? I'm a victim, it happens to me, I have no control over what's going on, to same things happen to me, but I have a choice about how I want to awaken. The book that we're using now to help us untie the knots in our being is the One Soul, One Love, One Heart, the sacred path to healing in all of our relationships with others, because we're always dealing with ourselves in a form we can see in with our relationships with other people. And what we're going to look at today, the great knot untying technique are the Four Noble Truths and what's called the Five Hindrances. I'm only going to go into a couple of them today. The first one is something we often don't like to hear, and that's the first noble truth that Buddha noticed, that Jesus noticed, that Yogananda noticed. Life without teaching is suffering. It's suffering anyway. No, it's going to happen in sickness, old age, and death. Nobody gets out alive. That's going to happen here. What we have is that we have teachings that help us deal with those things when they're thrust upon us. We're able to deal with them in a different way. And so the first noble truth is the awareness that life is suffering. Just being in a body can be difficult. It's just the way that it is. And when we can accept the fact that our joys are temporary as our sorrows are temporary, they both rise and fall, come and go, we become embraced by something much deeper than anything that temporarily shows up in a knot in our being and in our body. These techniques are ways in which we can face and be with our suffering and become present for that which never suffers, never changes, and is always infinitely present and loving you all the way through. Suffering. First noble truth. You know, Jesus' life didn't go real well. Let's be honest here, okay? He didn't meet his earning potential. He didn't find his soulmate. He wasn't understood by his friends. In fact, he was deserted by them, and he wasn't understood by his mother. And yet I think because I'm so spiritual, I deserve all those things, right? So life is suffering. That's not the bad news, it's the good news. The way out of suffering are through the techniques of awakening to who we are. The things are going to happen to you either way. So this book goes directly into that question and touches us, our owie button, as it tells us of what is, whether we like it or not. Page 74. This open acknowledgement of suffering flies in the face of many fundamental Western assumptions from our culture. We have believed that we should dominate the physical world, and that eventually, when our dominion becomes complete, we will uproot all causes for unhappiness and suffering. We will eradicate disease. We will eliminate pain. We will overcome death. We will achieve our goal of being, I love this line, happy, 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 all the time. In the meantime, when we're not happy all the time, we have drugs, alcohol, therapy, and other distractions. The problem is, and isn't this wonderful, our distractions don't work. Despite all our efforts to achieve happiness by avoiding suffering, our culture still consumes far more antidepressant medications than any other form of prescription medicine. Physical, emotional, and spiritual suffering are still very much in evidence in our culture, and in fact in all cultures. When we understand that suffering is a part of life and that we can't always be happy, happy, happy all the time, we're able to embrace whatever comes our way with a sense of equanimity and peace. That sometimes it feels like this, and sometimes I feel like that, and feelings come and go, thoughts come and go, but what I am is greater than anything that rises and falls, comes and goes. So we acknowledge the truth that life is suffering and that there is a way out. And then we're told in the second noble truth that the cause of suffering is desire. Desire means clinging and attachment to things always working out a certain way. And for people always doing what we think they should be doing and then being angry when they don't do what we want them to do. Anybody relate to that? There's a particularly incredibly powerful line that is worth the whole book, the price of this chapter. This one sentence: if you want to make yourself perpetually miserable, which we have a master's degree in, here's how you do it. Tie your happiness to somebody else's behavior. If you want to make yourself perpetually miserable, tie your happiness to what either people do or don't do. And watch how miserable in that moment you will become. Clinging and attachment, wanting things to show up and be in a certain way, creates a knot in our being, because sometimes they will and sometimes they won't. But with this teaching, we have a way to not get so caught up when that knot does happen. We have George's technique for releasing that knot. It's still there. We notice it, but we get free of it sooner. I had the great gift of being at Unity of Myrtle Beach last night for their 25th gala anniversary celebration, and they asked me if I would be the MC of this thing. And they did that months ago. And I don't really particularly like the MC role. I like to be the star or the meditator, and I'll take the offering. I don't want to deal with all the details of all the stuff you got to do when you're the MCer. But I got to my better judgment. I got asked to do it, and I said, sure, I'll come and I'll do it. And when we got there, the first thing that happened was Beach Drive, trying to go just 5 miles down Beach Drive in Myrtle Beach is living hell. I mean, it literally fires all your reptilian brain cells. I can't believe this is taking. One particular couple started walking and they beat us to the hotel. It just drove me nuts. So I walk in and we're hot and we're sweaty, it's really hot there, and we change our clothes. And immediately they jump on me as the MC. You know, here's what you should do, and you gotta do this, and you gotta take care of that detail, and it's gonna be a raffle ticket, and I'm going, I don't like doing any of that. I don't know what you just said. I just want to come here and be great and have them love me. Because I'm going to get my little 10 minutes to do my Richard Levy shtick, Richard Levy Unleashed. I get to introduce James Trapp, the head of the Association of Unity Churches. I'm out of there and everybody thinks I'm terrific. You know, that's what I like. So I got all these details to take care of. That's just what I do. I know that one in me. I know what that's about. I wear it loosely, but I also tie my tie around it as well, too. And I look really good. I'm all dressed up and ready to go. So I have my little props with me, because I've got a 10-minute speech that's going to knock their socks. These two people haven't seen the likes of me before. You know, so I'm all ready with it. I got my brain. Luckily, bring your brain with you. If I only had a brain, I got my brain with me, and I'm going to do this little shtick, but they don't have a lavalier mic. Could you imagine me trying to talk without being able to use my hands? So I've got a lavalier mic, and I've also got this brain that I'm trying to make this point with, and I'm trying to hold on to the brain, and I'm pulling the brain apart, and I'm explaining the prefrontal lobes of the switch from separation to oneness and left and right brain, and the microphone is popping and working terribly. So one side of the room, you know how loud I get, their eardrums are being popped, and the other side of the room can't hear me. And so right about a quarter into my big spiel, somebody walks up to me and says, "You're not using the microphone right." I said, I'm not using a microphone. I've been using a microphone before you were born. And I didn't say that, but it's like, oh, I'm not using the microphone right. Isn't that terrific? You know, this fits right in with everything else. Okay, let's just take my brain, throw it out the window, and get out of here. You know, and so it didn't work out the way I thought it would. So I was in clinging and attachment. My desire for it to happen a certain way didn't happen. The choice is, the knot is there. What am I going to do with the knot? And I sat down, and I could tell by the look on their faces, nobody was real impressed. You know? And I was sitting there depressed, and I went, attachment. That's what it was. It was desiring something to work out a certain way, and it did. Now I got to look at what I'd be teaching to all of you today, to put my little simple brain back together again, if I can do this and make this happen, and come back into oneness again, because I needed to get back up and do it again. Just to call it what it is, to name it. This is dissatisfaction. There's nothing wrong with desire. Desire isn't good or bad. The moment you and I stepped out of the doorway thinking we were separate, we went desiring to look for something that we feel is missing in us. So the desire is normal. It's kind of a built-in restlessness that we all have. Isn't it? Always feeling like, if I could just have that object that I'm desiring, if I could just get it, then I'd be free. Free of what? Free of the wanting mind believing it needs something to feel satisfied. In that moment of the desire meeting the satisfaction, there is a moment where you just feel like it's enough. You know that feeling? I'm enough. It just feels good. It feels good to get what you want. But you're not always going to get what you want, but you get what you need to continue to grow. Desires come and go. Now you're sitting at the doorway of the great desire to awaken to who you truly are. So when I look at this chapter, just get rid of desire. Don't be attached and don't cling. That's easy enough to say, but it can be difficult to practice. So I meet this beautiful woman, 39, 40 years ago, and we immediately had this great desire to be with each other. And for a moment, all of our judgments about our differences are suspended. You all know that particular place. You see them at retreats sometimes. When we have retreats, they meet, they fall in love. Oh my God, everything's wonderful. And then a year later, it's like, oh, the Lord. We did that about him. We could have told you that about her. The only one who didn't get it was you. And so Maureen and I, we get together, and there's this great desire, meeting with a great satisfaction. We wake up that next morning, and we both decided we want a blue one. You know, we got it. We both want a blue one. We're so happy we got a blue one. That's what I've always wanted. You want a blue one, I want a blue one. Isn't this terrific? And everything's fine until one morning one of us wakes up and goes, you know what? I want a green one. Well, I want a red one. What happened to the blue one? And all of a sudden, your desire is no longer being met by that person. And most people at that time become frustrated or angry and want to leave the relationship with somebody else that they can go find another human being with flesh on to get tied up in the same knot you were in before and have no way out. At some point, you say to yourself, you know, enough with this craziness already. With this person, I'm going to go deeper. This person is never going to be able to meet all my needs, because my ego needs are constantly changing. One minute, the very thing that satisfies me is the next moment, a year later, dissatisfies me. It's only a moment where we feel satisfied with what we project our energy onto. It's just a moment of satisfaction. That isn't bad or good. It's just to feel that it's only a millisecond. And all of a sudden, I got it. I got the job. I left the hospital. I got a brand new car. I finally got my CD done. That moment of satisfaction. It's only a second. It's only lasts a minute. It wasn't that terrible. But that's why we have practices to say, if you can realize this and see the process of desire and how it starts with feeling like something is not satisfying you, and you go out to look for it, and then you take action, and then you get it, and then it isn't it again. If you can just notice that, there's a great possibility for you to become free. The last desire is the great desire to awaken to who we are and finally get what it is. To track it down, to be aware of it, to say, I am going to meditate this morning. I'm not going to skip it this morning. I'm not going to go off to somewhere else to get something else to fulfill my desire. I'm going to start with a practice in the morning that will keep me alert enough to notice when I'm going down the path of seek and do not find. We're at the aquarium with Emerson, who was with us all week. Great example, 6 years old. She's filled with desires, loves to immediately fulfill them. You know, it goes from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. So we're at the aquarium, and she's really happy to be at the aquarium. She's just loving everything. It's a spiritual exploratorium out there for her. Everything is just amazing. And we're having a great time looking at the fish and the whale and the little seahorses. And all of a sudden, she notices the gift shop. The gift shop. There's a gift shop here. That's right. I would like to go to the gift shop. Could we go to the... I need to buy some more plastic metal things with whales and dolphins on them. That's what I need. Now I'm going to be happy. I'll bring something home. And of course, Mommy and Daddy might do that with it, but Grandma and Grandpa, we don't play that game. You know, it's kind of like, you don't need more stuff and more junk and more plastic and more metal. You don't need it. What we noticed was the moment her mind reached out to, that is what I need, she was no longer at the aquarium. No longer noticing, no longer seeing the beauty all around her. And we sat down with her at lunch and we talked about that, we noticed that. And it was interesting, because she was hearing what we were saying, wasn't she? She got it. Because when we left at the end, we said, we'll go, we're not going to buy you anything. And she goes, you know what? I don't need to go to the gift shop. What we did here was enough for me. Oh, that is heaven on earth. It's not that you'll... See, she was satisfied in that moment. Take that satisfaction in your own life and increase it 100 times. That's what happens when the beloved within you meets the source of all satisfaction. When you meet the essence of God in you. When the great desire meets the great satisfaction. It's that chant and that incredible poem by Yogananda, from the depths of slumber, I whisper, God, 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 thou art the food when
I eat my breakfast in the morning that I finally taste. It's delicious. I eat it slow enough to feel it in my mouth and taste it in my body. God, God, God. It's me waking up in the middle of night, because there was a moment in my sharing where I did have it. It worked. I decided that for my introduction of James Trapp, and James Trapp is the head of the whole Unity movement, he was going to be there, and I really wanted to impress him. But you know where he was? He was stuck at the airport in Atlanta. He couldn't get over. He was supposed to be eating dinner with us. He didn't get there till the last minute, right before he had to get up and speak. So he caught my introduction. So my ego mind is going, well, I'm going to nail this introduction. I really want to impress him more than these other 200 people anyway. So, and I'm thinking in my mind, here you go again. You're setting yourself up for dissatisfaction. It's not God, God, God. It was me, 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 Richard, Richard, Richard. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to use the other microphone. I took the microphone that was on the podium. I used it and did a 4-minute introduction that knocked everybody's socks off, okay? So you think I'd be satisfied. Was I satisfied? No. In the middle of the night, I said, God, I wish I could have done that for that talk I gave. That would have really been even greater than. God, 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 enough of the madness. It will never be enough. When boisterous storms of trials shriek, when worries howl at me, I will drown out their voices saying, God, 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 every night, every morning, when I pray, when I meditate, when I'm lost, when I'm found, God, God, God. And when this energy is met with your intention to use everything that happens to awaken, you're doing what Jesus said we must do. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and her righteousness, its righteousness, his righteousness, and then, all things shall be added unto you. It comes after that. And then you can enjoy it. It doesn't mean you don't have lesser desires. It doesn't mean you still don't want to go shopping, buy stuff, get stuff. We live in a consumer culture. But you understand it's only a false God when you worship and think it's going to deliver what it cannot deliver. You don't cling to it. You're not attached to it. And you know, as soon as you don't cling to it and you're not attached to it, the very thing you want him or her to do, they start doing. What a miracle! The moment I no longer look for her to be a certain way, she ends up being that way, but it's no longer my goal. It's God, God, God. Let me use this to awaken to the beauty and joy and the presence of who I am. So same life, George's technique for awakening. You know how to do it. You practice for a long time and you keep practicing. Practice, practice, practice. God is, I am. Choosing thoughts, aware of feelings, yes. Perception changes, yes. When I meet anyone, it's a holy encounter. Everyone I meet, remember last week, is my guru, my greatest teacher. You know, I am not less than, I'm just different, that's all, and we're all different. And then you use these teachings to help you awaken to who you are and become aware of the not sooner and feel the presence flowing through you more easily. So let's look at the not untying techniques for our talk today. And I know you'll be able to apply to your life immediately today, if not sooner. The first one, and I love that title, Desire Not. I thought that was cool. I'm so fond of me, you know that. No matter how bad it gets, it doesn't hold me down for long. I pick up that horn and I know I can play it. I get on that piano and I know I can sing it. You know, I got that gift, but I'm also just as neurotic and crazy as everybody else. As if you don't know. We don't find happiness by pushing sadness away. We just don't. Or by numbing ourselves, and I have some favorite techniques for that as well. Or by pretending that happiness doesn't exist. We find happiness by openly and honestly embracing all that is, exactly that is. We find happiness by increasing the capacity of our hearts so that we can embrace all of life experiences with what? Love, acceptance, and awareness. If you want to make yourself perpetually miserable, try this. Tie your happiness to somebody else's behavior. Uh-oh. There we go. Oh, that's a good one to let go of, yeah? Did you see that one? It almost got stuck there.
because I tie my happiness a lot to others. 3, to untie the knot of desire just requires that we see the automatic nature of the desire mechanism. We can then experience real moments of freedom that come from relating to our desire rather than from it, because then we're a prisoner. And finally, this is the beautiful part, when the great desire meets the great satisfaction, there is a moment of incredible heaven on earth. There's a moment when you're connected to the source of being, and you're clear enough and you're open enough to then be able to do what we're all called upon to do. Be in a place of consciousness where we can allow others to plug into our awareness in that moment. And then we're doing God's work on earth. Yeah, feel that. We're helping others get what they need in the moment to feel the presence of the beauty, of the joy of God in this moment. And then, my friends, we are fulfilling the function of being light bearers, bringing heaven right here now on earth. Practice well, not just for yourself, but for the benefits of all beings everywhere. Namaste.